Thanks, guys, for coming to join us. We thought this panel discussion we could just kind of cover our experience and some trends and key points that emerge in the travel industry. I'll introduce myself, and then, guys, I thought we could all just introduce ourselves and go through some topics here. My name is Jeffrey Donenfeld, and as you know, I work for a startup accelerator in Boulder, Colorado called Boomtown. I work with all of our new companies to figure out who we invest in. Previous to that, I worked for the United States Antarctic Program at the South Pole and at a remote field camp, and then have done a ton of travel besides that. So I'm both a tech geek and a traveler.
Hi, everyone. How's it going? Good? I'm Jenna Gold. I'm the manager of business outreach. This is my second day here at the TravFest, so I saw some of you earlier this week. So hi again, and hi to all of you who I've never met. Like I said, I'm the manager of business outreach, so I actually work with businesses across the country and help them utilize Yelp to best benefit their business. I do that in a lot of different ways. I speak at conferences, I write our blog, I host events, and right now I'm actually kind of kickstarting a New York local program for networking for business owners and education. So there's a lot going on, but I'm really happy to be here. It's my second year here, and I love talking to all of you, so really excited.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Matson. Yes, Voyager. I'm John Voyager, Johnny Voyager, as Dino likes to call it. So yeah, Voyager is a new community and club for founders in the travel, leisure, and hospitality industries. We connect them with corporate partners and investors at the right time and place. So we're not a formal accelerator program where Boomtown would be a great resource in that space. We're more like kind of like open source incubator, but we really look for the opportunity to connect the founders at, like I said, right time, right place. And so that's a free digital membership, and then we have a co-working space over on 25th between 6th and 7th, where a desk is only $175 per month. Super affordable. Yeah, we subsidize that cost. Killing it. It's called Voyager HQ. That pricing has not even been announced. It is just in this room and a few select people. So my background is in startups, basically. I worked originally at a video production company and started a studio out of it. And then I ended up running a marketing department for a city-run, or I should say nonprofit-run, city-led startup incubator called the Made in NY Media Center. And then now Voyager. So happy to be here.
And I'll round you out. I'm Susan Black. I'm Chief Commercial Officer of CIE Tours, which is, ready, an 85-year-old company. I know, it's like the old girl with the old company. What up in this session? But it's an 85-year-old wholly owned subsidiary of the Government of Ireland. So we do tours specifically to Ireland and Britain. We do a lot of them, 50,000 passengers from North America every year. So it's about a $130 million company. However, we are now embarking on the next 85 years in the digital front. My background is in startups and is in tech, travel tech specifically. I was partner of a firm called Black and Right, based in Boulder, Colorado, and Woodford Lake, New Jersey, so there you go. And we've worked with about 65 companies over the past couple of decades, all in travel, many startups, and was CMO in the past of a really small, little tiny startup called CheapCaribbean.com that grew to about $1 billion, and then was sold to Apple Leisure Group just about 3 years ago. So personally, I've been involved operationally with 8 startups, and I've worked with another probably 30 or 40 all in the travel industry. So very varied background in sales, marketing, operations, but specifically technology. And we are always looking for the next big thing in tech. So we're very interested to see what's on the horizon.
Thanks, guys. That actually kind of leads to the first topic I wanted to discuss. You know, Jenna and Susan, you both work with well-established companies. Yelp is a newly well-established company, and CIE has been around forever. John, you and I both work with brand new companies that are barely even established, maybe LLCs formed last week. So I was wondering if we could discuss kind of the innovations that we're seeing to bring new companies are bringing and that you want to bring to your company right now. So I don't know. You want to start? Sure. What are you thinking of right now?
So I think the first thing that I think of is kind of our discussion over the phone before the panel. We talked a little bit about what's kind of going on right now, like what's new in tech, what are companies really adopting, and we see things change all the time. I think probably all of us are just so used to change. So are you, I'm sure. And right now, what we're seeing is again just kind of another push to close the gap between consumers and businesses. So what's happening is, you know how everybody's glued to their cell phones these days, right? Like, how many of you would rather text someone than call them or pick up the phone? Okay, maybe not as many as I thought, but a lot of consumers out there do want to do that, right? So in my industry, at least, what we see is closing the gap yet again, even between phone calls. People don't want to pick up the phone to call, so messaging the business through platforms, right? So whether that's Yelp or it's TripAdvisor, excuse me, or Facebook. Right now, we see that people are really directly texting the businesses and asking for reservations or to book a tour, things like that. So we're seeing things are more and more online where people don't even want to pick up the phone. And actually, back in the day, that may have been the best lead. Whereas these days now, we're seeing it more and more online.
Susan, you and I had talked about this divide a little bit, and I think your situation is unique with being the tour operator, but not necessarily being a tour booker and having that layer of disconnection between your actual customers and your company. How are you thinking about that and thinking about dealing with that?
Yeah.
And could you just explain the actual issue to us?
I will. So for many tour operators, many established tour operators, and now it's good that this is on, there oftentimes, or traditionally, there's been a layer of retail travel agent, which has been very beneficial because they attract the customers and they're able to explain the different options to that customer. But it's been very difficult until recently to have that conversation directly with the customer. So everything has gone through a third party. When I entered the company, we like to take a look at data and be data-driven marketers and take a look. It's kind of difficult when you have none of the data, when it's other people's customers.
Why don't you have the data?
Because it's the third party that we talked about. It's that other layer, it's their customers. So we're operating.
And the booking agent doesn't pass it along to you.
It's their customers. It would be kind of like going on a date with somebody else's.
Okay, okay.
It's just not good to do. So, don't pass around the number. So that we are opening up. We're continuing obviously with our travel agent channel, but we're expanding channels. We're expanding into the consumer direct market as are many others in this space and have been for a long time. But we're not an OTA, and there really isn't an OTA as such.
Sorry, what's an OTA?
Sorry, an online travel agency such as Expedia, Booking.com, or something like that for tours. You'll basically get it for hotels or and flights, and then they will package together. But for multi-day tours, not so much. There's a lot going on there. Now, the interesting thing is in terms of technology, and this is where it differs a bit from Yelp and what you were just saying in terms of technology, we actually want to drive the customer, and I know this is going to sound oh so 1975, but there's a reason for this, to the phones. Even though they can book online easily with a great booking engine. Why? Because if you're going for 10 days and you want to know what you're going to be doing and what you're going to be experiencing and different choices of 40 other places that you go, you want to talk to somebody. So I get you with the texting. But if I'm going for 10 days abroad and I want to know, is this right for me? Because it's not one size fits all, it's customized. I want to know if it's right, because they all look the same. I probably want to talk to somebody who's going to give me differentiators. Now, AI is another story, artificial intelligence, and maybe that's coming up, and that's the great hope. But right now, we still have people.
Yeah, that's you just hit on two different trends that I think are really interesting in the market right now. One being AI, and also the misconception of AI. Everybody's like, I'm an AI company. It's like, you're a bot company, or like maybe a machine learning company. But it's great for marketing to say I'm an AI company. But the thing that is that it really does lower the cost of triaging those customers on the initial stages of their booking, and because they check so many sites at this point. I think it's like 35 sites are checked before they actually book where they're going to go on average. But so that would be a great thing. But to your point, at the end of the day, having accessible call centers really does close the deal and make it like much more brand recognized. But the other trend being the problem of aggregating tours. There's I got to say, out of the companies in our membership, 20% or 25% are all trying to figure out local authentic experiences and packaging them. And it's really interesting because it's, Airbnb's in that space, obviously, but and really has a great approach because they have not only the supply but the demand to be able to operate into that. But it's really interesting.
Do you see any one particular trend or scope for these packaging companies that you think is going to work? Because this is, at Boomtown as well, we get a bunch of these companies that apply, and we're still kind of looking for the spark that's going to let them be successful in this.
Yeah, I do think it's a tough nut to crack. I think
Right.
it's
especially when you have well-established companies with a huge reach like Yelp,
Yep.
who can speak authoritatively about what's good.
Yeah, and I think what's more likely, and we also see this as well, is somebody will come up with a good solution, but it has to work with Yelp or work with Airbnb on some kind of compounded solution, right? Because the hard part is, even if you package it, it's just really hard to curate the actual authentic experience and do quality control from city to city. So the ones that have been really interesting but really hard to scale are these regional ones. Trying to remember the name of it, but Formigo in London is kind of interesting, and you know Formigo,
Yep.
Tim?
Yep,
He's a
I
great
do.
guy.
Yep.
Tim Diego. But they do. They've done a really good job of keeping the quality really high, but it's really hard to branch out from that city because at the end of the day, you might be able to get the amount of traction in that city, but how can I say I'm going to do the same thing somewhere else without bringing the entire business over there?
And I
can't
got to
just
tell you,
duplicate it.
it's really hard. That part's hard. I didn't appreciate how hard it was because I don't have to deal with it, so it's great, until I took a look at it. I mean, I'm just that pesky sales and marketing and digital person, but to operate it and to really understand, okay, I want to go over I'll take Ireland, for example, 3 days of heritage because my last name is Byrne and I want to see everything burn, and then go on kind of a generic kind of tour because I haven't seen that, and then I want 3 days of golf and I want it to be seamless, flawless, everybody knowing what they're doing and everything showing up at the right time with the right people in the right place, some with other people, some just on my own. Good luck. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. So a lot of companies can develop ways to package and ways to amplify, to get it out there by doing APIs through other companies, Yelp and others, but to actually operate and the quality that's required and the level of expectation that the customer has for the experience is tough.
So this could be a great segue. What about the human API? Are human community-driven interactions the way to really figure out how to package these together and connect people?
I mean, I think regardless of what type of business you're in, humans are really driving the conversation about businesses these days. So whether they had an experience or experienced a package that was very well put together and they're spreading the word in that way, whether it's Yelp or word of mouth, or there was some things they didn't particularly like, people are sharing it and they're doing it often and they're doing it online all the time now. And that's tough because you have to pay attention to that and also see it for what it is. It's feedback. But what I've learned from a lot of businesses is that the more they pay attention to trends within those feedback, that feedback, the better they can be. Because if they start seeing that there's a particular part of a package that they didn't particularly like, that's the time that you tweak that package and say, okay, here's all this rich information that we have. Has anybody ever read the book Hug Your Haters? If you haven't, I recommend doing so. It's a very good resource. But what they find in research is actually 95% of people will never complain in a place that you can find it. Only about 5% of people will write a complaint online or call you or send you an email. It's a very small percentage. So paying attention to that feedback and looking at it and making sure that you're identifying trends and making edits along the way is really, really important and can be really, really useful. And then in addition to that, I think paying attention to direct messages now. I didn't necessarily mean before, people booking online. I think people want the option to book online, but I always have questions. I actually was speaking to Urban Oyster Tours the other day about what they offer here in the city, and I was looking at their website this morning, and I wanted to know more about their brewery tours, so that's a time where I would probably message the business and ask for more information before I spend. So making sure that you're aware of where people are talking about you, giving you feedback, and interacting with them on those platforms is also really important these days.
I feel like that's something that has become also really important to some of the startups in our community, that they've really pivoted a lot to B2B so that they could provide those resources to existing companies, in particular in hospitality and hotels. We see a lot of basically people who are giving more information and data to increase the margins for hotels, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because if I have a certain amount of inventory, but I don't have that much data on the people who are actually there, how can I provide excellent service consistently? How can I upsell on it? How can I really leverage that? That's all well and good, but these companies are doing that. They're trying to basically provide that extra step, that extra layer.
So it's all about getting information about your
yeah, so
customers.
that you can better
getting that curated feedback so that you can respond. Mm-hmm. Susan, with CIE, do you receive that feedback, and are you in a position where you can respond?
Yeah, that's what we're transforming into,
right.
So that, because we know how important that feedback is. Now, we do get feedback directly from the customers, and again, as a company that now we offer a multitude of ways that people can vacation in our destination. So traditionally it had been a motor coach, but now we have the small groups, and we have private drivers, and we've got all sorts of permutations of that. But for the main, which is the motor coach, and still lots of people like motor coaches, they don't get off the bus without filling out a questionnaire, which is very interesting because, talk about, the ultimate in TripAdvisor. You cannot get off the bus or Yelp without handing it in.
Captive audience.
And we make sure it's very interesting. I said, wow, why don't we do this until they get home, or when we're taking them to the airport, or after they get off? It's like, yeah, we want to do it before they get on the airline, which isn't ours. And, enough said. So we want them to have a good experience and to remember that good experience just when they're leaving. Now, it's a very qualitative survey. It's really interesting, and it gives us great information that we can go on. But it's very interesting because the data comes at the very end of the trip, and while they're there, it would be nice to have data in the planning part, to see what they're looking at and which types of tours are more exciting, or which type of new product. If we're introducing culinary or we're introducing photography, I'd love to get feedback before rather than after they've taken the trip, to see how we can position it better. So that's an area of opportunity, we'll say. We're challenged by that, whereas we get a ton of response at the end.
Huh, right. John, I remember what you said before about AI. And I wonder if you are able to generate enough information, if you can have a neural network AI trained up enough to be able to look through all of that data, or maybe look through feedback on Yelp and be able to give you the kind of insights. And these are the companies that I'm wondering if they're able to do it, if they can get a verified training set that's large enough to build that.
I believe it.
You think so?
I'm bullish on it.
I mean-
I think AI is the next big thing for companies such as mine. If you take a look at other startups in the space, extraordinarily well-funded, with really good leadership, such as Lola, pioneering the way. If you look at what Watson Technology is doing, and even small startups such as a company called Zomato, which is out in Singapore. So you've got really small companies, two guys and a dog, with really well-funded companies, such as the former founder of Kayak, Paul English, with Lola. And I think that AI, when it's perfected for travel companies, is going to be awesome because it is going to reduce cost. It's going to be a filter, you know. Ultimately, you'll speak to the right person at the right time, which is what we all want. And it's machine learning. So it's going to learn if you've got, I mean, we have, and we're a niche operator, just on the calls that we get, we have probably about 1,500 calls a day. That's a lot of machine learning that they can do on a daily basis. So I'm very bullish on AI.
Do you, with your systems, do you have a capture loop for that?
Oh, yeah, of course. So, but it's, you know, I'd love to have some, be able to, you know, to A, understand what the big questions are, and B, to be able to point them in the right directions that A, they're going to get the right information quicker, and B, it reduces my costs.
Interesting.
I was just going to ask about like attribution, like in terms of like is that a more of an issue of figuring out attribution and then saying like you know, this is where most of it's coming, at least as far as we can measure.
Oh, those are the things that keep me up at night.
I feel you.
So attribution is a bear. I mean, if you're doing it online, is it first click attribution, last click attribution? I mean, it's the age-old story. And then especially for companies such as mine, and by the way, a lot of travel companies are like this, where it starts online, but may end up on the phone, or it starts online, ends up on the phone, and then back online, and then back on the phone, and then over at Yelp, and then on the phone, and then it's like, oh my God, where are they coming from? What are they doing? So attribution is probably the greatest nut to crack, because then you can target your efforts and investments better. And this has been, since I've been talking about this since, I don't even want to say how long, but since 2001, I will say how long. And we're better at it, but we're certainly not there. Not for companies that have multi-channel, you know, which many, many, many companies have, multi-channel focus.
And audience, if you have questions, you know, raise your hand. We've got some time here. We've got, you know, if you have any topics you'd like us to cover, we'd be happy to. One other topic that I wanted to see if we could talk about is media with travel companies, and by media I mean photography, video. I just sat in here for the previous session was on 360, and there's another one on visual storytelling. What do you think is going to be the next big revolution that's going to affect your business for that? Do you think it's going to be VR? Do you think it's going to be photos? Do you think we're getting at a point with technology where it's not about the tech, but people are being able to tell their stories? Yelp, do you have any new things on your horizon?
That's a really good question. I think that it's already happening. I think we're actually right smack in the middle of it right now. Visuals have become more and more important and are becoming more important every day, especially as technology progresses. But that's not to complicate things too much, right? It's people overlook how important the basics are a lot of the time, and that could be a business's biggest mistake, especially early on. I can't tell you the amount of times I work with businesses that are all about aesthetics and all about like the experience, and people want to see that experience. And photos are a huge conversion tool for people. Photos and videos are becoming more so as well, but people don't necessarily always, surprisingly, always want to sit there and watch through an entire video. Or maybe that video doesn't necessarily appeal to them. Maybe they don't want to see the 360 view, right? Maybe they just want to see some shots of, you know, whether it's your property or it's these tours or what have you. So conversion comes with a higher amount of visuals. We always tell people that I'm pushing to get more data on what's going on Yelp with photos, but we know that 15 photos is kind of like the magic number. That's where conversion really shoots up on business pages. And that's things that people don't think of. So often they think, oh, I just need a picture of like, if I'm doing a trolley tour, like the trolley, and that's it. Cool, great, we're done. They want to see your staff. They want to see you. They actually want to see the owners of the business more than you would ever imagine, because they want to see the face behind the business, and people like spending with smaller businesses. They really do. And they want to see everything and anything you can show them. So even those basic free tools that you have on a lot of platforms, especially as you're just starting out, are really important and could be really big game changers. So I don't want to oversimplify it, but I do think it's a little more simple than sometimes we make that.
Totally. I think it depends on when I'm like on Yelp or I'm looking for something and I'm on the go. Like, I'm not gonna watch a video, but I am totally gonna like flip through like 15 photos while I'm on, like, oh, that looks so good. The crab ragoon is amazing. Like, that makes a lot of sense. But I think that in the tour space, I'd be curious to hear on this, that AR is going to do a lot, and we're already seeing a lot with like audio tours, and like people are doing like beacon audio tours, like beacon reacted audio tours on where they are, and museums, and there's a few people in our space that are doing things like that. But VR definitely, I feel like, is a little bit further out. The content, it's still the same problem they had like 8 months ago or whatever, which is like this, just more content needs to be created for it to really benefit. Because am I going to sit here and then like put a headset on and be like, oh, I'm in Aruba. All right, now I'm going to go to Aruba. You know what I mean? It's like it's a little bit of a leap from like, your discovery tools as they are right now. So at least that's what I'm seeing mostly.
So it really depends upon where you are in the journey. That's really it. So Cornell did a really interesting study recently, and shockingly, at least to me, almost 55% of people's memories, visual memories of a trip, happen before they even get on it, the planning stage. And I guess it's not surprising. They go to 35 websites, they're looking at a bunch of things, they're really attention, I want to see this, I want to see that. 15% happen on the trip itself, 15. OMG, right? I didn't know that. I had to read the study at Cornell, they're smarter than I am, but that was interesting. And the remainder happen afterwards. Yeah, that's kind of like when I look at my husband and my 2 teenage kids and I said, that was great, wasn't it? Forgetting about all the fighting and everything else that went on, right? So that's the curated memories that we have. But that's basically what it is. Now, when it comes to visual, if you take a look at that journey path, where do you think you need to have the most visuals? It's in the planning stage, shockingly. So most people think social media, oh my God, we're going to put it all on when we're on trips. Well, that's fine. But what people are really remembering is this curated kind of, it never rained, it's always sunny, it's always great, the kids aren't fighting, That's what people remember. So you have to keep that in mind when you're looking, I think, at the graphics, at least we are, certainly. Now, interestingly enough, and everybody in this room who has a kid or is a kid is going to say, oh, crap, I can't believe you're telling me this now, but we're doing something for the very first time that we're making a decision on Monday about at CIE Tours. We have 2 interns going this summer for a 10-week still haven't been chosen, 10-week back-to-back tours. I know, pretty cool, right?
Can I intern for you?
Yeah, and basically they're going to be taking pictures to that end, because the main thing is authenticity. You can have all the pictures in the world, and I love that. I'm agreeing with you totally. The 18, is it 18? What is it? 15? Okay, 15, got to remember that, thank you. But I want them to be authentic. I want them to really look like they're there. Doesn't mean low quality. Does not mean low quality. Has to be high res, has to be great, has to be fabulous, can't be, kind of cheesy stuff. So we're taking a leap, and we're hiring these 2 students, a rising junior and a rising senior right now. They're the front runners, but decision hasn't been made. And they're going to go, and they're going to see it through their own eyes. Now, we haven't done this before. None of our cohorts have done it, so it could be scary. I don't know. If they're anything like my kid, it could be really scary, but it's okay. We'll try it. But we want to get a repository of all of this content in there, not only to use in social media while they're there, but really to keep it there throughout the year so it goes with campaigns. And plus, then we own it. It's great for SEO. It's great for our ownership. It's great for a lot of different things. I may be saying a very different thing a year from now, going, oh my God, stupidest idea I ever had. But we're going to try, and then if it works, we're going to do it every winter, every summer. And what a great opportunity for marketing students, for content, for all these people to really get immersed and embedded. By the way, they are social media concierges, because the other part of their job, if you thought it was great, maybe this is not so great, is they have to go around. We have Wi-Fi on all our coaches, and they have to go around on all the coaches and help everybody say, how do I do this thing on Pinterest? What is this thing? And then they're doing optional things in the evening for these people. So we'll see how it goes. But that's another way to get content. You don't just have to, either buy, and especially if you're on a shoestring budget, it's great to get people on either fam trips or an internship, and get somebody with an eye and with passion to get all this stuff. But I can't underscore how important visual content is. I'm not so sure about AR yet, or VR. I like it, but
It's got a couple years.
it's got some time to bake. But certainly short videos, content, blog, anything that's authentic.
All right. Thanks, guys. Audience, any questions?
I have an AI engine.
And
It's a real AI engine.
sorry, we have 15 minutes, just so you know.
Yeah, it's a real AI engine that has rules and stuff and talks to Watson, and IBM does ads about us and whatever. How do I explain that to the travel? You guys understand AI. You guys really, just listening to you, I was sitting in the back and I heard you talk, I came here. How do you take this message that there's no way that we can survive without that AI today and start to use it?
You mean
Having the control.
when you're speaking to like a corporation, or when you're speaking to like a consumer?
The travel industry, when you talk AR, people go,
Okay.
it's sophisticated to.
So you mentioned Watson and AI, and I think you mentioned AR as well?
No.
Okay, just AI. In my opinion, the way you talk to people about that is you don't talk to them about it. You talk to them about the results and what they get and the services that they get. So they get customized recommendations on which package based on our knowledge of your social graph that you've let us connect with, based on all of our user-submitted reviews, based on hundreds of photos uploaded. And this is what we think. Not we have this sophisticated system in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of larger players are looking for AI solutions, but for specific issues. Like customer call centers is like a big hot ticket for a lot of companies right now. And if you can show that, oh, this used to cost 10 cents a call, it's now going to be 2 cents a call or something crazy like that, then you're like,
And it's not just about the cost, it's making sure that the right call goes to the right person. I mean, how do you divide up between a service person? Do I need a passport? Do I really need my best salesperson on the phone to answer, do I need a passport? So it's really dividing up, and that's where the learning comes in. That's where it's not just, kind of what we've had before. It knows, oh, they're asking about a passport, so this is not going to be a sales call, so I'll stay on here for a while. And if there's something that they ask, which is, gee, can I get some additional sightseeing with that? That's a sales thing. So that's a learned type of behavior. That's where it gets exciting. And I agree, if you can say what the results are, like we can do this so that service goes to service and sales goes to sale and there's learned behavior, and then it not only reduces costs, but it will get to the right person with the right skill set, that's a conversation worth having.
And to a certain extent, it's worth obfuscating the fact that you are using a deep AI to do a lot of these things because consumers get nervous sometimes. Yeah, when they shouldn't. Like if you knew that every time you look up a restaurant on Google Maps, it's looking through your entire location history at all the restaurants you've been to and then giving you that result, you'd get really freaked out if it showed you all the...
They are?
Yeah.
Also, on that same point, you have like a silver bullet if you actually have this. So another idea is like find a co-founder who's really deep domain knowledge on a specific topic and like, you know, partner with this. If you already have the technology and the engine there, like it's a sought after commodity right now, and like it's a lot of opportunity for you at the end of the day.
Anyone else? Any other topics you'd like to have us cover? Any new business ideas on your mind or new technologies you think that we should be aware of now that you have all of us here? All right.
I mean, there's one thing I know that I have a small travel company and I do 2 times a year group trips, and you know, as much as people know about the destination, like usually the second question they ask is who am I traveling with?
Yeah.
And I know some other companies, and this is when they're complete strangers, and they'll be the guide, and either me or other people I work with will be the trip coordinator. There can be drama when 10 or 20 strangers come together and do these adventures for a week. And maybe, I know there's Trip Tribe, I don't know many other companies that try to, I mean, G-Adventures, it's just crap shop, you don't know who you're going to be with. Some of the other companies, you don't know what ages. It could be a bunch of 20-year-olds, a bunch of 50-year-olds, it doesn't always work. And maybe that's an opening for AI, because that's what they want to know. They know it's in Costa Rica is great. They've heard great stories, they know it's going to be, if you stay in nice hotels, have fun. But it's who's going, how old are they, how many guys are going, how many girls, like, you know? Where are they from? They want to know if there's anyone from their hometown. That's easy kind of to solve, but somehow and I know Trip tried doing this, and now most of what they do, I think, is yoga. They do mostly yoga retreats. They'll organize yoga retreats for yogis that want to take their people down.
I was going to say, I think that the best experience I had with that is I actually did a package tour because I was forced to.
Hey.
But it was the only way I could get there, and it was great. And I ran the Pyongyang Marathon, and it was just for this group that was marathon runners, and so we got there, and it was all like a very similar demographic, but it made me realize how diverse the whole audience could be. When we were in North Korea, there was a bunch of other tour groups that we saw that were, demographics all over the place. And so I personally think that doing, activity-focused groups kind of helps self-select.
Yeah, but still, I haven't seen too many companies that try to do, like, they'll do, just we're doing a group tour wherever it goes, there's Caravan, there's all these companies, but for me it's important that the group of people is actually kind of matched, and who's going like a personality, you got like a bunch of people who like to party late and like to drink, and a lot of people who don't. And like, how do you? And maybe AI has an opening. That's from personal experience, from like 7 years taking these trips. Yeah. I haven't seen any company that actually.
I do that.
What?
I do that.
You do that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
You guys should chat. Yeah.
Well, and I think you bring up an interesting point, and we have to get away also from demographics because, with all due respect, demographics are beyond dead in my book. Because a 30-year-old who wants to do something may have more in common if they get up every morning and do yoga with a 60-year-old than a 30-year-old who wants to, party all night and sleep until 2. You're going to have more in common with that. So it really has changed. Now, interestingly enough, I mentioned my daughter again. I have 2 teenagers. So my 19-year-old is in Madrid, and she's doing study abroad, and every single weekend she finds a group together there, and they do multi-day trips, cheap, and they're almost all students. But that's over there, and that works because even though I said demographics don't matter when you're 19 and 20, I guess it does. But as you get older, you're really looking more for interests. Who's got the right interests? You know who does it really, really well? Cruise lines do it well, extraordinarily well. And they do it through a whole algorithm, but it's not cheap, and it's not easy. And that's the big guys. For the small guys, there is no, I mean, there may be here, but there is no solution that I know, and I agree with you. Even as a $130 million company, moving around 50,000 people a year, we get that same question every time too. Who's going to be on it? What are their interests? Well, are they, you know, we know they're all interested in Ireland, but that's where it begins and ends. So, you know, now what? So that I agree with you. I think, and it's interesting. The one question that that I always like to hear at tech panels, which is, what problem does it solve? That's the big one. I think you've highlighted for multi-day tour operators, whether it's startup or, you know, for any age group or established, it is a problem knowing who in advance you're with, or knowing that a particular departure is right for you, because you're gonna be with those people almost like a family for like a week. So.
All right.
This is, you know, when you do make the sale, they're thinking about that, right? And I've had experiences, again, like you said, with, again, specifically for me with mixed agents or mixed interests, that it wasn't pleasurable for some people, and we surveyed, so kind of trying to, you know, there are ways that you can try to fine-tune that, but when you're small, again, it's an issue that comes up.
We're just about out of time, but thank you guys very much. Thank you,
Thank
audience.
you.
Good to see you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.